Chang Daolei smirked, leaning in slightly before coolly telling him to mind his own business. Some secrets weren't meant to be shared. Before Gao Fei Bao could argue, one of his men burst in, breathless and frantic. "You need to see this," he panted, shoving a poster into Gao Fei Bao's hands. White Wolf peered over his shoulder, her brows furrowing as she read the contents. Gao Fei Bao's face twisted in shock. Chang Daolei crossed his arms and casually remarked that his men had worked hard to plaster those posters all over the city overnight, so why had Gao Fei Bao bothered bringing one back? White Wolf, still trying to process what she was seeing, asked in disbelief. "Are you seriously planning to rob the entire city?" Chang Daolei chuckled, waving a hand dismissively. "It's not as dramatic as it sounds," he reassured her. "I'm being cautious this time, and money isn't even my main objective." Now even more intrigued, Gao Fei Bao leaned in. "Then what are you after?" "Fame," Chang Daolei answered simply, a mischievous glint in his eye. Meanwhile, in Black Rock City, inside a bustling restaurant, two men sat at a corner table, quietly discussing the same posters. These weren't just any men, they were the very barbarians Zai Yun had previously encountered. The one they called the young prince tapped the table thoughtfully. "Who is this Toad King?" he asked. His companion, the one who had gathered information, recounted what he had learned. The so-called Toad King and his followers were mountain bandits from King Myo Mountain, known for their remarkable feat of defeating 1,000 elite Black Rock City soldiers, forcing Zhu Banchuan's forces into retreat. The young prince smiled slightly. "Elite soldiers of Black Rock City? Beaten by bandits?" He let out a quiet chuckle. "Now that is interesting. Perhaps we should meet these mountain bandits if the opportunity arises." Before the conversation could continue, a voice interjected. "Outsiders shouldn't run their mouths without knowing the facts." The two men turned to see Chang Daolei leaning against a nearby pillar, watching them with casual amusement. "If you know nothing," he continued, "it's best not to speak nonsense." The second man bristled at the remark, his hand twitching toward his weapon. But the young prince raised a hand, stopping him. He studied Chang Daolei curiously. "And why are you so eager to defend these bandits?" Chang Daolei smirked. "Oh, I have no intention of wasting breath," he said lazily. "But I can't just stand by while you slander the Toad King." He then launched into an exaggerated tale, describing the Toad King as a legendary figure, kind-hearted, strikingly handsome, a hero admired for miles around. The young prince arched an eyebrow. "That's interesting, because the stories I've heard paint a very different picture." Chang Daolei shrugged. "Rumors travel fast," he mused, "and not all of them are true." Intrigued, the young prince nodded. "You speak as if you've met him." Chang Daolei grinned, eyes gleaming with mischief. "Well, calling him a hero without having seen him might be a bit hasty," he admitted, standing up and tossing a few coins onto the table as a tip. "But who knows? Maybe you'll get the chance." The young prince watched as Chang Daolei walked away, his interest clearly piqued. Outside, Shinji couldn't help his curiosity. "Where do you think those guys came from?" he asked, his voice hushed. "They seemed powerful." Chang Daolei's expression darkened slightly. "They might be connected to the Ring clan," he muttered. Shinji raised an eyebrow. "How do you know that?" Chang Daolei grinned, the playful spark returning to his eyes. "Divine skills passed down from the gods," he said dramatically. "I just know things." Shinji scoffed. "Yeah, right? Oh, and one more thing," Chang Daolei added with a smirk. "From now on, when we're in the city, you call me Young Master." Shinji stared at him in disbelief. "You can't be serious." Chang Daolei simply patted him on the shoulder and strolled away. Later that evening, at Jia's residence in Black Rock City, a lavish wedding banquet was in full swing. A guest at the gathering boasted that with just a couple of silver pieces, they could indulge in the grand celebration. Shinji, unable to resist, muttered, "The Jia family sure loves to talk." He turned to Lu Bai. "Wasn't there some famous official in their lineage?" Lu Bai nodded. "Yeah, one of them was a minor city official," he said. "But that was a long time ago." Chang Daolei smirked, watching the lively festivities. "Well then," he said, rubbing his hands together. "Shall we?" Shinji hesitated. "You do remember Kin Man has a bounty on his head, right?" Chang Daolei shrugged. That just makes things more interesting. Chung Daolei reassured Shinji, waving off his concerns and stating that after laying low for over half a year, Kinman had nothing to fear anymore. As they stepped into Jia's residence, the place was alive with celebration, lanterns casting a warm glow over the festivities. The banquet tables were overflowing with food and wine, and Chung Daolei's group quickly found their seats. Shinji wasted no time, grabbing a slice of meat and tearing into it. Chung Daolei gave him a side eye and, with his mouth half full, calmly scolded him for his lack of table manners. He reminded him that they'd eaten meals like this countless times before and told him to slow down. Shinji, unfazed, shot back that Chung Daolei had no right to talk when his own hands were just as quick. He grumbled that after so many days of cold food, he deserved to enjoy a hot meal for once. Lu Bai, amused by their bickering, reached over and laid claim to the leg of lamb, declaring it his. At another table, some men eyed the newcomers suspiciously and asked for their names, sensing they weren't locals. Chung Daolei, chewing on a large piece of meat, casually responded with a dismissive, "None of your business." The men fell silent, taken aback by his blunt response and his complete disregard for dining etiquette. Suddenly, excitement rippled through the room as the bride and groom made their grand entrance. Led by their families, the couple walked towards the center of the hall. The bride's face was hidden behind a vibrant red veil, adding an air of mystery. Chung Daolei leaned in, muttering to his companions, "Think she's beautiful under there?" His eyes remained fixed on the bride. Curiosity piqued. Before anyone could respond, a loud voice shattered the atmosphere. "Stop right there." All heads turned toward the source of the commotion. A man stood near the entrance, his face twisted with anger. "I won't allow this wedding to happen." Gasps spread through the crowd as murmurs of confusion arose. The bride's body tensed, and from beneath her veil, a shaky voice escaped. "Zai Kai." Someone in the audience whispered his name in recognition. "Luo Zai Kai." Another guest quickly explained. He had once been a close friend of the groom and even held a marriage certificate with the bride. But when the Luo family's fortunes took a downturn, the Jia family had swooped in, taking advantage of their misfortune and forcing the woman into this marriage. Disbelief swept through the crowd. Could such a thing really be happening? Zai Kai took a bold step forward, holding up a weathered document. "Zulan," he called out to the bride. "You can't marry him. Our marriage certificate proves it." The room fell into a tense silence. Weddings were bound by tradition, and if Zai Kai's claim was valid, then this marriage couldn't proceed. Jia Wu, the groom, clenched his fists, his face burning with rage. "Get him out of here," he barked at his housekeeper. Chaos erupted as the servants rushed forward, grabbing Zai Kai and dragging him toward the exit. But he fought back, kicking and struggling. Punches landed on his ribs, and he was shoved to the ground, his face slamming against the wooden floor. Blood trickled from his mouth, but still he refused to back down. "You traitorous scum," he spat at Jiawu. "You pretended to be my friend while forcing Zulan into this marriage." The bride, her veil trembling, whispered his name again, her voice thick with emotion. Tears slipped from beneath the fabric. Jiawu, enraged by her reaction, turned on her. "Why are you crying?" His fury only grew when she didn't answer. "You think I don't know?" he snarled. "Fine. If you love him so much, then watch him die." He gestured toward his men. "Beat him until he can't move. Then dump his body in the mass grave outside the city." The room fell into stunned silence. No one dared to interfere as Zai Kai was pummeled mercilessly. Someone yanked the marriage certificate from his grasp, holding it aloft. "Burn it," Jia Wu ordered. Some onlookers murmured in agreement, while others cast uneasy glances at each other. Zai Kai, lying battered and broken on the floor, barely clung to consciousness. His vision blurred, and through the haze, he saw the silhouette of Zulan rushing toward him, screaming his name. A voice rang in his ears, Chung Daolei's voice. Zai Kai's eyes flickered open just enough to see Chung Daolei crouched beside him, observing his battered state with mild amusement. "Do you believe in justice?" Chung Daolei asked casually. Zai Kai didn't answer, too dazed to comprehend. Chung Daolei stood, rolling his shoulders before without warning. He kicked over the nearest table, sending food and wine crashing to the ground. A hushed gasp rippled through the hall. With a smirk, he addressed the Jia family. Toad Village is conducting business today. We're only here for you, Jia Wu. If anyone else wants to leave, I suggest you do so now. Lu Bai, still chewing on a piece of meat, muttered, I wasn't even full yet. Screams erupted as guests scrambled for the exits. Some panicked cries of mountain bandits filled the air. Jia Wu's face twisted in rage. Who the hell do you think you are? Chang Daolei, Shunji, and Lu Bai suddenly found themselves surrounded by Jia Wu's guards. Beat them to death, Jia Wu bellowed. Shunji shot Chang Daolei a concerned look. You do realize they outnumber us, right? Chang Daolei ignored him, instead calling out, Qin Man! At another table, Qin Man, Xiao Yu, and Zhang Fei immediately perked up. Qin Man cracked his knuckles, eyes gleaming. With a growl, he launched into action. The Jia family's guards barely had time to react before he plowed through them, sending men flying. Stop him! Jia Wu screamed, watching in horror as his men were tossed aside like rag dolls. Qin Man stormed toward Jia Wu, gripping the head of one of the guards. Jia Wu raised a weapon in defense, but before he could strike, Qin Man slammed the man's head into the ground. The impact was brutal. Jia Wu's eyes widened in shock just before he, too, crumpled unconscious. Enough! A sharp voice rang out, silencing the room. An old man stepped forward. Old Man Zhu. He looked directly at Chang Daolei and bowed his head. Master Chang, he addressed him respectfully. Desperation laced his tone. Please, we have no grudge against you. I beg you spare my son's life. He swallowed hard, his voice trembling. Name your price. Whatever you desire, I will fulfill it. I swear, you will not be disappointed. Chang Daolei eyed Old Man Zhu with a smirk, questioning his sudden claim of having no grudge against them. He reminded the old man that when he had the chance to share his wealth fairly, he had refused. And now, here he was not just clinging to money but also forcing a woman into marriage. Chang Daolei leaned in, his voice laced with irony, asking if Old Man Zhu would be so calm if someone tried to steal his daughter-in-law in broad daylight. Panicked and desperate, Old Man Zhu dropped to his knees, offering to give the girl to Chang Daolei if that would satisfy him anything, as long as his son was spared. Then take it from me. The two immediately launched into a brawl, fists flying, as the rest of the group cheered them on. Before the fight could escalate, a commanding voice cut through the air. Enough! The crowd fell silent. The one who had spoken was a young man, his sharp eyes gleaming in the firelight. His presence demanded attention, and his men instinctively obeyed. With a slight smirk, he addressed them. You all want the axe? It's over 100 pounds. Who here can actually wield it properly? Kai-Hu and Ida exchanged glances, their enthusiasm faltering. I thought so. The young man stepped forward and effortlessly swung the axe, cleaving a nearby tree in half. He let the weight of the weapon settle in his hands, then declared, This axe belongs to me now. From this day forward, it will be called Storm Tomahawk. A slow smile spread across his face, clearly pleased with his decision. This was Huerl, a prince of the northern barbarian Ring tribe, young but already feared. The people of his tribe often called him the Coldland Wolf, believing he would one day dominate the battlefield. Ida turned to him. What now, Prince? What's the plan? Huerl's gaze drifted toward Black Rock City, the flames of the campfire flickering in his eyes. No rush, he said. There's plenty in this world worth taking: wine, silk, weapons, land, women. His smirk widened as he pointed toward the distant city. For now, we blend in. When our people arrive, we'll raid Black Rock City. As the night deepened, back in Black Rock City, Chang Daolei's group gathered in their hideout. The air was thick with tension. They weren't just dealing with a theft anymore. Something far bigger was coming. Chang Daolei shivered slightly, feeling the cold settle in. Shinji, eyeing him with concern, questioned whether they were truly safe on this journey, given the tense atmosphere in the city. Chang Daolei, undeterred, brushed off the worry. We're not here for a vacation, he muttered. There are plenty of scumbags waiting for justice. We might as well be the ones to deliver it. He then turned to Shinji. What do we know about the Wang family? Shinji recounted what he had heard. A wealthy 60-year-old man had recently bought a 14-year-old girl. Chung Dao Lei's expression darkened. That alone is enough to have him quartered, he declared. Lu Bai and Xiao Yu nodded in agreement. There was no debate on this one. Chung Dao Lei split the group, ordering Xinji and Zhang Fei to stay outside while the rest of them moved in. After finishing the job, they would regroup and move on to the next target. Xinji, however, voiced a concern. The city guards are already on high alert after our last raid. Should we really keep going? Chung Dao Lei smirked. The more chaos we cause, the easier it is to slip away. With that, the group pulled fabric masks over their faces and set off toward the Wang residence. Qin Man climbed onto the outer wall, scanning the courtyard below. Chung Dao Lei signaled to him, and without a word, Qin Man moved into position. The rest of them slipped inside. As they crouched behind a side building, Lu Bai whispered, "Where to?" "The old man's room," Chung Dao Lei answered, voice laced with disdain. "People like him deserve nothing less than hell." They moved carefully, whispering among themselves, but inside the house, there was already another scene unfolding. A man lay in bed, laughing, passing leftover wine to a woman named Mrs. San. She giggled and urged him to put out the lights so no one could see them. The man scoffed, unconcerned. "The old man's got his hands full with that young girl," he chuckled. "No one's gonna care about us." Mrs. San ran a finger down his chest, teasing, "You're such a bandit." The man smirked. "If I ever ran into real bandits, I'd cut down a few of them myself." A split second later, the door crashed open. Chung Dao Lei's group stormed in, swords drawn. "Speak of the devil," Chung Dao Lei grinned. The man and Mrs. San screamed in terror. For a moment, though, the intruders themselves faltered. Mrs. San was well endowed, and her lack of clothing wasn't helping. A few of them turned red, coughing awkwardly. Xiao Yu, still flustered, hesitantly asked, Is this the 14-year-old girl we're looking for?" Chung Dao Lei quickly regained his composure, clearing his throat. "Focus, gentlemen." He faked a cough, shaking off the awkwardness, then pointed his sword at the man. "Who the hell are you?" The man, trembling, stammered, "I am Wang Papa. My father is Wang Yu and why?" Chung Dao Lei narrowed his eyes. "You expect me to believe that? You're just as bad as the old man." He pressed his sword closer to the man's throat. Wang Papa desperately nodded. "It's true. I swear." Chung Dao Lei turned to Mrs. San. "And you? What's your deal?" She hesitated before responding. "I'm Wang Yu and Y's third wife." Chung Dao Lei exhaled sharply. "This family is a mess." The group huddled together, whispering. Xiao Yu leaned in. Wrong room. What now?" Chung Dao Lei didn't hesitate. "We tie them up anyway." Ropes were pulled tight, knives flashed. "Stay still," Xiao Yu warned. "My knife doesn't negotiate." Wang Papa whined in fear, pleading for his life, but his words fell on deaf ears. The moment of silence was shattered as Chung Dao Lei suddenly yelled, "You filth deserve no mercy." The house erupted into chaos as they set fire to the rooms and made their swift escape. Inside, the Wang family panicked. Flames licked the walls as people screamed for help. Meanwhile, outside, Chung Dao Lei and his crew vanished into the darkness. In the wreckage, the family stumbled across two unconscious bodies stuffed inside a bag. "It's the young master and the third wife," someone shouted. On their foreheads were crude drawings mocking them. Nearby, a wooden plank bore a message. "Rob the rich, feed the poor." Another plank read, "Justice from heaven." And it didn't stop there. The Zhu, Lu, Chun, Jiang, and Huang families all faced similar attacks that night. Fires raged across Black Rock City. In the chaos, one bystander muttered, "Chung Dao Lei really stirred up a hornet's nest." Another added, "And they always leave that damned toad symbol." A frantic voice interrupted, "Less talking, more water. The city's burning." Chung Dao Lei and his crew fled as city guards scrambled to contain the damage. Qin Man carried Xinji, who was breathless from exhaustion. Chung Dao Lei surveyed the city, eyes sharp. The time to escape had come. Then the system beeped. Fear points, 41,135. A notification appeared. Mission complete. One lottery draw available. The system prompted him. "Would you like to draw now?" Chung Dao Lei shook his head. "Later." We need to get out of here first. But escaping wasn't as easy as he had hoped. Despite the chaos they had unleashed, they were too big of a target. Guards were everywhere, tracking their footprints. It became clear that staying hidden was the safer option. In the crowd, wanted posters had already surfaced. One of them landed in the hands of Hurl, the barbarian prince. His lips curled into a smug grin. Well, he mused. This is interesting. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Shinji finally returned to their hideout, carrying a bag of food. He exhaled. I found us a place. An old friend's willing to hide us for a few days. Chung Dao Lei recognized the acquaintance instantly. Luo Zaikai. He turned to Shinji, voice low. Can we trust him? Shinji nodded without hesitation. Aside from Zaikai, only his elderly mother lives here. He won't betray us, especially since he seems to be the one chasing after Zulan. Zaikai approached, his expression serious. I stood up for you the other day, he said, his voice laced with conviction. I'd never turn on you. I swear it on my life. Chung Dao Lei studied him for a moment before making a decision. All right, we'll lie low here until things cool off. After that, we'll figure out how to get out of town. That night, as the moon hung high, Chung Dao Lei slept fitfully. A vivid and unsettling dream gripped him, his mind consumed by a sensation of looming danger. Suddenly, he jolted awake, drenched in sweat. His gut twisted something was wrong. Kin Man rushed into the room, sensing the disturbance. What happened? He asked. Chung Dao Lei rubbed his temples, still breathless. I don't know, he muttered. But deep down, he had an idea. The overwhelming surge in fear points wasn't normal. It was a bad sign. Kin Man pressed further. How do you know something's wrong? Chung Dao Lei didn't answer right away, still piecing things together. Finally, he exhaled. I'll take over the night watch. You get some rest. Morning arrived, and the stillness of dawn was shattered by an enraged voice outside. Chung Dao Lei, come out and face me. Zaikai's furious shouting rattled the quiet residence. Chung Dao Lei groaned, rubbing his eyes. What the hell is his problem? Kin Man frowned. Has he been like this since he went out this morning? Zaikai's accusations came fast and loud. You unscrupulous mountain bandits. I'll report you to the guards. I'll drag you to court myself. Chung Dao Lei yawned, unimpressed. Kin Man, tie him up. Kin Man didn't hesitate. One well-placed punch later, Zaikai crumpled with a pained yelp. Moments later, he was bound and kneeling before them. Chung Dao Lei crouched in front of him, calm but firm. Take a breath. Speak slowly. Zaikai glared at him, defiant despite his situation. If I were afraid of death, I wouldn't have wasted my time studying the books of the sages. He took a shaky breath. Do you even realize what you've done? The entire Jia family is gone. Completely wiped out. Chung Dao Lei's casual smirk faded. What? You heard me. Zaikai spat. The whole Lu family, 237 people, slaughtered in a single night. Old, young, it didn't matter. Not a single survivor. The bodies were everywhere. He clenched his fists. And on the wall, a toad, painted in blood. You killed them and then didn't even have the guts to take responsibility. Shinji tried to interrupt, but Zaikai wasn't done. His voice cracked as he mentioned his fiancée. Where is she? You took her. I haven't heard a word since. Did you kill her too? Chung Dao Lei scoffed. What are you talking about? She was the Jia family's daughter-in-law, not ours. His lips curled into a wry smile. And we haven't even left this house all night. Zaikai's face twisted in confusion. Kin Man, catching on, asked, Are we being impersonated? A shiver ran through Zaikai's body. You mean, this wasn't you? He blinked rapidly, his voice turning desperate. But aren't you blessed by the gods? Can't you use some divine magic? Maybe the 5 thunder spells. Chung Dao Lei rolled his eyes. Stop talking nonsense. Turning his back on Zaikai, he faced Kin Man and Shinji instead. Shinji muttered, This guy is getting on my nerves. Forget him, Chung Dao Lei said. We need to figure out what's really happening. Hours later, the group gathered, their expressions grim. Chung Dao Lei leaned forward, hands clasped. So, thoughts? Xiao Yu crossed his arms. Whoever's impersonating us, who do we think it is? Qin Man's first guess was Gao Fei Bao. Could be him. Shinji shook his head. Bandits steal to survive. They don't go around slaughtering entire families. That's something else entirely. Qin Man frowned. Then who? Zhang Fei finally spoke. There's a third force in town. Someone we don't know about. Liu Bei nodded. They wiped out a whole family overnight without a sound. That means they're more efficient than us. His tone darkened. They aren't just killers. They're professionals. Cheng Dao Lei clenched his fists. Doesn't matter who they are. If we can't escape, neither can they. His eyes burned with determination. Whoever dared to use my name for this, they'll pay for it. In another corner of Black Rock City, rumors ran wild. People whispered that Cheng Dao Lei was a monstrous killer, committing unspeakable crimes. They claimed he had butchered his own mother at 8, his father at 9. Some swore he ate human flesh, consuming 3 pounds of meat and blood at every meal. At a restaurant, 2 men were deep in gossip. Cheng Dao Lei's the kind of evil that only comes around once in 1,000 years, one said. He'll bring an age of bloodshed. At another table, Cheng Dao Lei, disguised, listened in silence. One man downed his drink and slammed the cup down. One day, someone will take him down, carve him up, and feed him to the dogs. Cheng Dao Lei smirked slightly, swirling his own drink. Outside, the streets of Black Rock City bustled with activity. A crowd gathered, eyes wide with anticipation. Something big was about to unfold. Shinji and Zhang Fei stood among the gathered onlookers, trying to make sense of the commotion. The crowd pointed at a building, their whispers spreading like wildfire. Someone mentioned that the Missy from the Huang family had used her own money to fund the army, while others noted the unmistakable toad symbol painted on the walls. The realization sent a ripple of unease through the spectators. Anyone marked by the toad symbol seemed to be the next target. Concerned murmurs filled the air. If the Huang family was next, fear and panic must have already taken hold inside that building. Then, a desperate cry rang out. A woman from the Huang family pleaded for a warrior brave enough to take down Cheng Dao Lei. She even offered her own body as a reward. As if on cue, a group of women from the Jade Spring House chimed in, declaring that whoever could kill Cheng Dao Lei would be rewarded with a free ride. Shinji, never one to miss an opportunity for mischief, elbowed Cheng Dao Lei and chuckled. Maybe we should just kidnap you and claim the reward ourselves. Before Cheng Dao Lei could respond, chaos erupted at the city gates. A thunderous noise, the clatter of hooves, and then screams. Hooded riders stormed through the north gate, cutting down anyone in their path. Run! They're here! Someone screamed as the city fell into panic. The invaders were swift and brutal, their movements efficient. Citizens gasped in horror, some swearing that a single axe stroke had split a man clean in half. A few bystanders speculated that these were the infamous mountain bandits of the Toad Village, their reputation for toughness preceding them. But others shook their heads. Something felt different. Meanwhile, hidden behind a wall, Cheng Dao Lei's jaw tightened. So these are the bastards using our name, he muttered, eyes locked onto the warriors cutting through the city guards. His gaze darkened when he spotted a particular figure among them. And that bastard is holding my axe. At that moment, General Lu Hong and his soldiers arrived, met with cheers from the citizens. A woman ran up to him, eyes shining with admiration. General, return triumphantly. I'll be waiting for you. Another woman, overcome with emotion, assured him, I always knew you couldn't be wrong. Meanwhile, a foolishly excited man riding a donkey shouted to a woman in the crowd, when I come back from killing bandits, I'll propose to you. Another fighter cracked his knuckles. Today's the day Cheng Dao Lei dies. Cheng Dao Lei, still in hiding, watched the odd display with growing irritation. What's with these people riding donkeys, cows, and mules? Are they going to war or a dam parade? A bystander proudly explained, the city's township warriors are all generous and righteous men. Another added, they're bringing justice and eliminating threats. Just then, the system's familiar beep echoed in Cheng Dao Lei's mind. Fear points approaching 1 million. Congratulations. Once you reach 1 million, you'll be able to redeem one top-quality item. Liu Bei noticed the crowd dispersing and turned to Cheng Dao Lei. What's our next move? Cheng Dao Lei didn't hesitate. We head to Little White Wolf, borrow some horses, and get my damn axe back. Outside the city, thousands of eager fighters pursued the so-called Toad Village bandits. But just ahead, the real culprits, the barbarians, waited, their expressions eager for violence. Kai-hu turned to Hurl, the young prince. Are our people arriving soon? Hurl smirked. They should be here by today. Let's play with these fools first. He gripped the stolen axe tightly. Let them come closer. Let's show them real power. Kai-hu nodded, raising his bow. He carefully judged the distance: 3 miles, 2 miles, 300 paces, 200 paces. Then he let the arrow fly. The shot was true. A soldier from General Liu Heng's forces fell, his death sending a ripple of panic through the ranks. Before they could react, the barbarians unleashed a flurry of arrows, cutting through the unprepared volunteers like wheat before a scythe. General Liu Heng, ever the strategist, ordered his men to dismount and take control of their horses. He narrowed his eyes at the skilled riders before him. Something didn't add up. These aren't Chang Dao Lei's men, he murmured. They fight like the Ring Clan. The battle intensified as Hurl grinned, raising his axe. Let's have some fun. Kai-hu followed suit, taunting the soldiers. Anyone who wants to die, step forward. General Liu Heng shouted. Who will fight him? A soldier stepped up confidently. I'll kill him in 3 rounds. The soldiers murmured among themselves, some hopeful, others skeptical. Can Master Zhang really defeat him? He's strong, another agreed. Let's see how it plays out. As the duel began, Master Zhang put up an impressive fight, blocking each of Kai-hu's attacks. But Kai-hu was too fast. A split-second mistake was all it took. Zhang turned, exposing his back, and Kai-hu struck, piercing him clean through. The soldiers gasped as Kai-hu lifted his bloodied spear triumphantly. Who's next? 3 more challengers fell before he finally withdrew. Then Hurl himself entered the fray. The young prince was a beast on the battlefield, his iron axe carving through men with terrifying ease. Several soldiers died in mere seconds. General Liu Heng watched him closely. Something was off. His eyes fixed on the Chang Dao Lei's axe. How the hell did he get that? He muttered. One of his officers whispered urgently. General, they call him the young prince. General Liu Heng's suspicion deepened. If this was the Ring Clan, then something much bigger was at play. Hurl grinned, his expression brimming with confidence as he confirmed his identity. He was indeed the Cold Earth Wolf, the young prince of the Ring Clan. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment Flamingo and subscribe for future parts.